Well, welcome to BetaCast. This is the videocast from BetaE or BetaI, if you prefer, if you're in a foreign country outside Portugal. This is our videocast on YouTube. I'm Alisson Avila, and this is our tourism season made in partnership with Nest, the innovation lab from Portuguese Tourism Board or Turismo de Portugal. And there's a reason why behind the season's topic. We are preparing our Lisbon Tourism Summit in partnership with Turismo de Portugal next Wednesday, September the 30th. And you can be there too, registering for free at lisbontourismsummit.com. Be there. Most probably we all be there too. And why are we are all these things happening? Why are we talking about tourism in the season? And why are we preparing the Lisbon Tourism Summit? This is not a hard question to be answered. The tourism industry is facing an undeniable transformation due to the COVID-19 scenario with plenty of challenges, but also good opportunities to do things even better in terms of public health, personal health, environment, safety, not to mention visitors' behavioral shifts, asking for more circular, greener actions from all the tourism agents. And that's why today we'll talk about what are the perspectives on tourism, sustainability, innovations. And you have the pleasure of hosting here Roberto Antunes and Leonor Picão. Would you like to introduce yourselves? Roberto, Leonor, please.
Ladies first, Leonor, go ahead.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet here. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Leonor Picão. I work in Tourism of Portugal in the direction of the valorization of the offer. I'm the coordinator of this direction, and I have the issue about sustainability.
So, hi everyone.
Super, thank you.
Sorry, I'm Roberto Antunes. I'm the executive director of Nest, which Alison has kindly introduced to you. So a private right association on which Turismo Portugal is one of the founders, together with 7 other private. So something really different in a ways of holding the future for tourism, to really put together different, let's say, industries, but that's tourism, right? So it's the meeting point. It's where everyone meets. The relationship with sustainability, it's because it's one of our main drivers for, in order to force innovation. So together with seamless experiences, data, and sustainability, these are the 3 pillars that the industry itself, through several gatherings that we've made, has identified as key priorities. So our mission is actually to help to make it happen faster, basically.
Super, amazing. And thank you for the context as well, not only introducing ourselves, and thank you again for being here and sharing your expertise on this very specific topic, for sure, interconnected with systemic approach or impact. But today we are trying to have sustainability as a starting point for our conversation. And let's begin by a very factual recent news, which is the very recent Tbilisi Declaration, Actions for Sustainable Recovery, was just released from United Nations World Tourism Association Executive Council. And the documents recognize tourism as one of the worst affected of all sectors by the pandemic, and identifies the current global standstill as a chance actually to realign the sector towards a more sustainable and inclusive future. But what does that mean in practical terms, in your opinion? What are the most relevant challenges to be tackled by the tourism industry to become really more circular and sustainable? I know it's a broad question, but it's an introductory one. Let me start again. Ladies first. Leonor, if you'd like to share.
Well, COVID has a great impact in tourism. In fact, tourism was one of the sectors most affected by the COVID pandemic. No one has any doubts about that. However, we are convinced that the return to tourism will happen, and it will continue to have the same values that before the pandemic. Sustainability is the way for a better tourism, before the pandemic and even more after it. This moment of pause is the right time for tourism to find the focus on sustainability from an economic, environmental and social point of view. Taking on that focus and finding ways to be more environmentally friendly and more friendly to the planet and people will also help to be more economically viable because tourists today, they are also looking for this offer, the sustainable tourism. COVID has changed the world forever and has impacted industry, including the international travel, tourism demand, and the hospitality industry. The biggest challenge is not to be afraid to believe that sustainability must be a cross-cutting concern from the sector. The pandemic can give us the direction for how tourism can grow in a sustainable and responsible way. It is essential to investigate how the tourism, travel and hospitality industry will recover after COVID and how the industry can be made sustainable in a dramatical changed world. For sustainable tourism, during and after COVID, there are some important issues like adapt the offer to the new health guidelines, ensuring social distancing from the tourist source and at the destinations, and security and trust in destinations too. Just like that, we can transform the pandemic and any future crisis into an opportunity for sustainability and for tourism. Perhaps Robert have something more specific to say about it also.
Oh, to me, you know, the point of view of why are we talking about inclusiveness and sustainability? And I think, you know, for the ones who work really closely in this industry can feel it very, you know, easily, intuitively. It's all about people. That's what tourism is about. It's about the tourists, the community, the collaborators and people involved. So whenever, let's say, there's a economical philosophy or social philosophy such as sustainability, immediately tourism is actually a way of translating it because it's made of people. So it's probably one of the industries where the thinking of where we can go towards a better place, a better world, is more, let's say, immediately thought through. So it's not an industry full of barriers and walls and protections. It's quite open, quite fluid, and therefore, if the world thinks that sustainability is the way to go, and it is kind of a common thought since a decade ago, then tourism is kind of an immediate translation of that. So there's no way not to go in this flow. So for me, it's quite natural that from now and even in the future, whatever is a global thinking of how to make things better, tourism will always be, let's say, a common place for us to think of how to translate that into those businesses and things that exist within tourism. But I also believe that the COVID being, let's say, a negative thing, whenever we have at least one dead, let's say, involved in this, it is not something that we wish that would have happened. But in fact, I totally agree with Leonore when we say, or when she says that from the difficulties, it can turn into, you know, thinking of opportunities, and there's a potential of making things stronger. And there's the overall thinking that sustainability is actually from a very difficult word in the past that came into as kind of a threat, you know, as a complying behavior. Now it turns into an opportunity. We see that the companies, the green techs, etc., they kind of have gone through maybe easier than others. There's also a great push and an appearance of lots of technologies and companies that are actually booming and having great results currently, and thinking of the future. This is also, let's say, a direction of economic growth. And so the sustainability starts to be seen, and I think the current times have made it stronger or made it come faster, as actually a great opportunity for development for both, you know, economies, companies and startups to jump in, for societies, etc. The momentum is also a great concern for people. So we are all now much more aware that our choices have impact. So the choices within tourism as well, I can make, you know, and choose something that can be very pleasant for me, but have no impact for the environment or for the communities that are involved. But I think, you know, we are more now on the common sense that the best choices are the ones that have positive impact. So these are also bringing greater opportunities for tourism. So sustainability, I think, is now perceived at a global scale and level as more of a positive thing and opportunity, rather than, you know, something and rules that you have to comply with.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe
it's interesting that you came up with the compliance topic here, because you came up with another interesting point, which is these are different layers, behavioral shifts. Like, we already had some new normals before talking about COVID. So when you talk about green economy and sustainability in a fluid industry, as you said, which is tourism, this point was already there. And COVID actually came as an accelerator for change. And then you have these two layers combined, boosting this change. And if you permit me to move forward just a bit, it seems that we can't separate COVID from sustainability measures in the tourism recovery process, because they are actually intertwined, as you said. Just let me jump to one more topic on this, which is we are still discussing this here in Europe, which is the European Union-backed 750 billion recovery fund related to the COVID scenario. How could this fund help tackle both dimensions, or these combined dimensions of COVID and sustainability, let's say on the short term, or maybe on the medium term, for the tourism industry? Where should we address this budget for the tourism industry? Let me start by you now, Roberto.
Yeah, it's kind of go back to the thinking of economics, how it works, right? So like in the old theory of economy, the supply must follow the demand. And what we see is that we're, as people, putting more and more value and interests behind sustainability, but on the real impacts of it. So the local economies, the proliferation of culture, cultural aspects, because it's now much more of an interest of tourists than ever. Immersions, experiences, the possibility as well to benefit from new experiences that create also new businesses. So it's kind of unavoidable. If there is money, if you really want it to be efficient, you really need to also address to what people are looking for. So that is, let's say, the first thing. But I think there's also lots of evidences and great ones, such as, Macron has announced, a huge pack for France. And one of the criteria is actually, the relevance towards tourism and the use of technologies that actually have positive impact around sustainability as the trinomium. So there is, like say, at a very high level, also the walking the talk, as we see here, as we didn't see it in the past. Many countries not actually like the Kyoto conference, so many people many countries and economies not following the agreements. But now you see that all of this recovery money as also a saying for sustainability and the well-being of people overall. So and actually the points that COVID bring is not only relative to tourism. So the safety, the cleanliness, the health issues, this is above tourism. So in a way, in order for the whole economy to work, putting efforts and investment behind it, it has immediate impact on tourism, which is something that people will never give up to. We're as human beings, we will always have, let's say, the appeal of getting to know more and understanding, this place that we live, which is called Earth. So tourism is actually part of our DNA as Homo sapiens. So it's not something that people will give up. So definitely, I say that there's no turning around, no turning back. This money will be more efficient if it has a thinking behind on sustainability. If not, it will come in time, because we are all changing behaviors. We are all changing the ways of looking at the way that the environment, the communities and the economy play. And I think there's a much higher alignment than ever.
Mm-hmm. If I got your answer, the entirety of your answer, one thing is the minimum viable needs for tourism to happen, like cleanliness and safety and so on, as you said, boosted by the COVID reality. And the another one, and probably you use the French example to talk about this, is that before the money itself, we should talk about the ideas and the new business model supported by technology. But what would be, in this sense, what would be your bet? Let me ask also to Leonor, when you talk about these ideas before talk about money, now we know that the fund is going to be approved. We don't know if you know its entirety, but we know you have this funding. What will be your bet about the priorities?
Well, soon Tourism of Portugal will announce the plan of sustainability for tourism. It has many actions for the next 3 years. And this is a way to think after we have to know how to make the money something good, because with the support of financing coming from Europe, it is necessary that the tourist companies can be economically supported. We know that, but also they will have tools to be increasing the other dimensions about sustainability. This is our opportunity to do it better. I would say that this is the great opportunity of this crisis and the only advantage to be taken from the pandemic. We have to think there will be more important measures in the short term. We know the economic development measures are very urgent, but we also know in the future, in the medium and long term, environmental and social measures will be the opportunity to get something good out of this moment. We have to think in this pandemic like an opportunity to do it better. And okay, money helps, always helps. But we can't lose this opportunity to use this support and to use it very well. Tourism of Portugal has joined the Global Sustainable Tourism Council as a destination member. We are the official Portuguese Tourism Board responsible for the promotion, development and sustainability of tourism activity. And we are very committed to making the tourism industry increasingly sustainable. Tourism of Portugal has also supported many companies, and the support coming from Europe will help a lot. It will have to be very well distributed. We have to think a lot how to do it. The sustainability of the tourism industry should be a focus. Because it's the way to have a better tourism and a better life for everyone. We can't lose this opportunity. That's it.
Okay, so you could say that having in mind this 3-year plan that's going to be launched and implemented, being implemented actually, I would say, from the Portuguese Tourism Board.
Yes.
We could say that one of the goals is try to access part of this fund to be made available to execute part of this plan on sustainability, right?
Yes, and to support the many actions from 3 years, like reducing carbon emissions, more efficient use of environmental reserves, reducing the use of plastics, better training for workers, sensitizing tourists for sustainability, and many others. All these actions involve the public and the private sector. Only with everyone pushing in the same direction, the future will be more sustainable. We think this plan is something very important in this moment, for this moment.
You just came, sorry, Eleanor, would like to finish?
No, it's okay.
Because it just came with the right hook for me to jump to our next question, to keep being tangible on what we are talking about. And also not only to talk about the near future, but the present times, which is when you go back to this Tbilisi declaration launched last week from the World Tourism Organization, its content elaborates on people, planet, and prosperity topics. And when you go through the planet topic from this declaration, this guideline has 4 more subtopics that I'd like to share with you and ask your opinion about good examples, good practices, being in Portugal or foreign countries, about how technology and startups are helping this industry being more sustainable on this. We have 4. Probably I talk about 4 of them now, and then you can have a freely conversation on it, right?
Okay.
For the prosperity, for the planet's topic, there are 4 subdivisions, let's say. The first, shifting to a more resource efficient and carbon neutral sector in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, especially the number 12. I mean, responsible consumption and production. Then we have the second, monitoring and reporting carbon emissions. Then we have the third, leveraging digital technologies to support environmental planning, management, and monitoring. And at last, the fourth, investing in nature-based solutions for sustainable tourism. If necessary, can you go back to all of them? The first, let's start by the first, Roberto. Shifting to a more resource efficient and carbon neutral tourism sector in line with the Sustainable Development Goal. Would you like to share some good example on it?
I'll try to think of a top of mind examples. To me, this is a very important point and a win-win. We're now at a point on which this can actually be a solution for, let's say, the bottom line of the company. So increasing profits and having a proper management of resources. So this can translate actually in a good impact for the world. There's many examples on resource efficiency. Actually, you know, Portugal has brought an highlight. I think last year with the Corinthian Lisbon hotel that got a European award of finding a substantial reduction. I think on the levels and on the likes of 60% of energy. So a lot of efficiency gainings. And you can find many examples as well of startups and services that help you, you know, to manage the, let's say, the expenditure and the proper. There's also Aden with which is making a really strong development on solutions, technological solutions for both electricity, but also lately on the water resource. We are actually partnering with them, and Turismo de Portugal is also another one on trying to get let's say a group and have technologies working together in order to find and to progress on the water aspect for hotels and others. I would say that if for the ones who are actually interested in, try to find on the Nest website. We have many solutions there classified by their skills and competences. The ones allocated for resource optimization, you will find a bunch of them. Simple Google search, you will also find, and it's getting quite common as Turismo Portugal is, I think it's good to make this reference, is making a strong effort, and it's been, let's say, 5 years, in order to bring in more innovators for the sector, for the industry. And you would see year after year, more and more startups directing their, let's say, solutions for sustainability. I was actually very well impacted last time, and just to finish, a couple of months ago in one of those ideation programs. There was actually two of those potential startups working on measurement of the carbon footprint and actually the use of resources as well. So one for each. That could be directly linked to the expenditure and the payment that you will do at the hotel. So it will be directly, let's say, indexed the price versus your expenditure on those resources. So people are actually more looking forward to make sustainability something more tangible, you know. They really want to know what is the real impact. So there's a lot of investment, to the point of Leonor was saying beforehand. There's a lot of investment on trying to create ways of assessment and making it more simple and understandable for an individual, and not something really, you know, far. You really want, and to finish, just one example, a great that I love, which is called Viva Firenze, which is a booking engine on which, you know, the typical fee that you would give for an agency, it is used to put money back into sustainability projects around Florence. So I'm kind of actually saying this in order to potentially have people now, you know, trying to address in Portugal to this opportunity, you know, finding funds for this can be a way as well to collect, to get the demand. People are looking for ways of making choices that have real impacts.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Roberto. For sure, it's hard to deny the fact this is not because we are here in Lisbon, in Portugal, but we can't deny the fact that actually being such an important resource for the Portuguese economy, the Portuguese tourism board has been working in very medium to long-term initiatives to tackle this topic, not only through the examples you mentioned and the Nest Lab itself. This just remind me to say that BetaE also runs an open innovation, a collaborative innovation project called The Journey, connecting public services, private entities, and startups, global startups, to tackle some of these challenges as well. But let me close this loop, passing the word to Leonor, because probably Leonor, you have some examples to highlight on some of these topics.
Okay, I would like to share a good example that in being working on. We are studying which materials absorb carbon as part of the sustainability plan, and we will prepare a guide to good construction practices. It will be very important for future investments in tourism and for our offer to be more sustainable. The plan on sustainability for tourism, like I said, it has many actions for the next 3 years, and many of them are about this issue, about reducing carbon emissions and how to be more efficient use of environmental resources, reducing the use of the energy, plastics. We have a lot of actions, and we are sharing this plan with the private sector, because, like I said too, we need everyone. Everyone is important, and small business, technology, startups are also very important. We need everyone to have a really sustainable tourism.
This is super interesting, Leonor. Do you have a date for
yes,
this construction guideline launching?
Well, we hope
roughly.
Yes, December. Yes, next December. I think we have this work finished.
Amazing.
I hope so.
It seems that you're doing journalism in real time, because now we have some news to share about this sustainability construction guidelines in December.
Yes, we are working with universities too. It's a work with inputs of many areas. Okay.
Mm-hmm. More necessary than ever. Thank you, Leonor. But if I understood well, you are going to talk about 2 examples, or did I understand wrong? Were you going to talk about one more?
In our actions, we have many examples. We are working also with schools of tourism, because it's very important to include them thinking about these issues. And we have also some actions with the students. They are the future workers in tourism. So we are thinking with them in these actions too, and also about this specific issue about emissions of carbon.
Mm-hmm. Super. Thank you, Leonor. Roberto, you came up with a comment that I think is pretty much important, which is, it's easy to anyone keep talking about sustainability in a distant, mystical, philosophical way. And our daily challenge is to make these challenges, the solutions for this, not that ethereal challenges, tangible. Let's talk about the micro or small or the medium tourism operator. For sure, an important stakeholder, not only in Portugal, but in any other touristic destination. How could the small operator, the individual service provider, have a more sustainable activity on tourism? For sure, this is also a question of Leonor interests. I know you have knowledge to share about this too, but how can these stakeholders to be more active on this? Or how could be in the end, technological innovation or circular economy processes be adopted by these smaller agents?
Well, it's a really tough question, and I think it's not only for Portugal but for the whole European Union.
The whole world.
Our world, yes. As tourism is actually made of really small companies, and which is great because the diversity on the offering and the possibility to do things is endless in tourism. But it puts here a couple of challenges, which is on the capacitation, education, providing awareness, and highlighting the opportunities of sustainability. I think in one hand, there's a way of forcing this through programs. And another hand, there's, let's say, the natural way that we will all put value on it, given that even a small operator will understand that its business is only viable if he or she starts to comply and you know, use those attributes of sustainability. And it's not only on the level of complying, but it's also feeling itself as part of the system, as a human being, as a community member, that it will give it back at a personal level, benefits for himself, for family, for everyone, for the city that I live in. So this is, let's say, it's like a force on which is on the kind of on the backstage, but it's keep on going, and will definitely make as well all those small companies be, you know, involved, because it's the only way to carry on businesses, is the only way to carry on positive things on the trinomium. But I think, you know, there's help that we must supply in an ecosystem which has these characteristics of having SMEs as the main force of building the value. And this is by making those concepts much more easily understood. Ways of translating the information really in a basic way, because most of us need to understand a couple of those things of sustainability still on a basic level. Even I myself, I recognize, you know. So there's something to be done at that level. And there's also the digitization, which is also seen as potentially the best approach to sustainability, because it's easily spreadable, much more accessible and affordable, and it can bring a lot of solutions with great impact on sustainability. And this is also something that needs to be addressed on how to help to digitize the sector, to help those smallholders actually to embed technology and solutions, also making it more accessible, because, you know, think of those energy and resources and alternatives. They're very expensive. It's very hard for really a small company to invest on solar or others. So these things also, from a kind of governmental view or others, needs to be thought as, you know, how to make it really accessible and not to create barriers for those small holders and companies to access these things. So there's another measure as well, to actually make it much more mainstream, much more accessible, all those sources of energy, for example, and another one. So I think I've pointed out three: the energy, the digitation, which brings in lots of opportunities on the green technology area, and the basic knowledges on those concepts, so people think and actually can then, you know, build upon it, understanding the opportunities and also understanding that is the only way to sustain a business for the future. There's no way that a business, and we see this everywhere. You see Airbnb, you know, circular or community-driven solutions that have stolen lots of value on hotels, for example. You see, you know, Uber, you see others. So I think it's a matter of us all gaining more awareness of those possibilities, because once you are aware of and inspired, then there will be people creating ideas and following those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Roberto. And what's your intake on this, Leonor? Do you agree that, as Roberto said in the beginning, even before talking about the solutions itself or make them accessible to the majority of micro and small operations in tourism here and abroad, this should be first about legislation and personal mindset, awareness about it, get knowledge about this need of doing differently. Are we still talking about this stage prior to the solution itself?
Well, I agree. I agree with Roberto, but I think sometimes the needs make us to have to do it fast. The pandemic we are experiencing has provided us a digital revolution. Telework, webinars, online reservations, and so many other examples show how the sector has had to adapt the activity to the new needs. So sometimes time is something we don't control, but I think we have to think a lot and to have knowledge and ideas to know where we want to go. Some of these needs will remain in the future after the pandemic, and it will help us to have an increasingly sustainable tourism. It's like that. Now more than ever is the right moment for us to invest in more digital and more sustainable tourism. Putting technologies in line with the environmental issues, such as we speak about reducing carbon, for example, adapting tourism to the climate change. This pandemic and the necessary technology evolution and adaptation are also an opportunity to have good examples and to have a sustainable tourism in the future.
And could we share, this is a question, thank you, Leonor, this is a question both for you and to Roberto. If you know examples, could you share also some plan related to it? I mean, how could smaller operators have access to some new solutions to the daily work? Do you have some example coming from Portugal or abroad, or something being prepared to be announced about it specifically? Giving sustainability support or tools or resources to micro, small operators in service in Portugal? In case we do.
If you want me to go first, I think, you know, there's a lot also being developed from the push Turismo de Portugal through the Foster Innovation in Tourism. So it's actually a matter of putting together better the ecosystem, getting to know that many solutions that we don't know that they exist. That there's actually entrepreneurs and people which are offering them. As I mentioned beforehand, you know, I've seen great stuff from and ideas, but there are also, you know, small companies that are already establishing and providing those alternatives, ways of having a better management of those resources. They already exist. Systems that you can put, you know, on your pumps and to actually control the water, amongst others, they already exist. There's actually as well technologies in order to recycle the plastic, which is villain, but you know, we have to do something with it because it lives for so many centuries. We need to do something. So there's, let's say, new things like the plaster, with which you can use it in the construction and furniture and others, and it's becoming now much more accessible. I
That
think
is good what you're saying, Roberto, because your example, what you're saying for me is that some of these initiatives or these innovations, they are not only available, but they came from the bottom up. I mean, from people already working on daily basis, being a micro or small operator in tourism, they found new solutions.
Absolutely. Look at Silicon Valley, of how many those, you know, unicorns and those companies are focused on sustainability, and nobody's forcing this to be like that. It's because it's what we are all looking for. The alternatives for food, in alternatives for construction that are not damaging, you know, the environment and can use waste. Alternatives as well in order to manage businesses, because we are all now living a moment on which the costs have increased. So there's more cleaning, there's more things, you know, to spend money on top, you know, of the existing operation. So there is actually now a struggle in order to find more profit and ways of cutting, you know, wastes and costs which don't make sense. So you will see, and we are seeing now really a momentum for startups. Actually, this is a moment that we are living of change, which, you know, the fast adaptancy, giving fast answers. It's the perfect environment for new business and solutions to come in. Perfect environment. So I agree with you. It's bottom up. It's at the level of people and filling up our needs. And our needs now have been reinforced on the aspects of health, of care, security, but also protelating the world for the next generations, etc. I think it's now a common thought.
Super. We are almost going to the end of our conversation, and my next question, I'm sure I really would like to listen to Leonor's approach on it, because I know you are an architect and you have a background on it connected with the tourism industry. And a few minutes ago, we were talking about two elements prior to innovation itself, which is legislation and personal awareness or knowledge to make things change on a daily basis. But in the very beginning of a conversation, we came up with the core topic, I would say, if you permit me to say that, which is the change in people's behavior. When people change their needs or their requirements about having a good tourism experience, this is about requiring more action and less sustainability discourse narratives. I mean, find a gap between both sides. How is this client behavioral shift creating pressure on major players in the tourism industry about their facilities, about their buildings? What are these major players doing? And there are a lot in Portugal for sure and abroad, not to mention obviously. What could you say about this topic? What are these stakeholders doing to show visible evidence that they are improving their processes for sustainability?
Okay. Well, people's behavior is changing because it had to change. The pandemic did not ask, it had to be that way. The behavior of operators and tourists has changed. It was necessary to give confidence to tourists and company workers. I have an example to share with you. The success of the clean and safe stamp is an example of how companies were motivated to change behavior and how tourists need a sign of confidence. The clean and safe stamp was important for everyone. Tourists, employees and entrepreneurs, the staff of the hotels, everyone had to adapt. And in a short time, we have more than 20,000 companies participating. They all changed their behavior and adjusted the way they work to give tourists confidence. We also seen several initiatives in the tourism sector to deal with the pandemic. In Portugal, we say that necessity develops art, how to do. Once again, it is an opportunity to do better and hope that after the health crisis, the sector will be more and better prepared. And especially going on sustainability and sustainable tourism. It's something happened. People's behavior change and is changing because it had to change. And sometimes we are more prepared than we think.
Or we are quicker than we think in terms of response.
Yes, Portugal is a good example of this.
Great, thank you, Leonor. Roberto, would like to add something more here?
I would like to add that there's beautiful things being done that actually reflect that we are not, let's say, on the zero level on behavior. And in Portugal, we are potentially quite well advanced. Leonor mentioned the clean and safe. It was done really quickly, and actually the adoptancy of and the scale that it gained. So everyone actually on the offering side was applying for it and complying with those aspects. Let's remember as well that we have the one and only first archipelago, which is sustainable recognition. So Azores as well, and how it has got attention actually from the Portuguese throughout this time and gain, much more of the choice and preference in this last time. So people are actually putting value on the beautiful side of the natural side that Portugal has. And Portugal is quite of a well and green and clean country. I think this is actually really good. And then, Alison, even hoteliers and others, they keep pushing on asking, for solutions on how to get rid of plastic, and how then, if they're making efforts on their own space, how can then the activities and the remaining things such as surfboards and others, then tourists will then use, throughout the day, will also follow the same, and be built and done with those concerns on the materials, for example. So these are things that we hear every day. So I think it's when it comes to behavior, I think Portugal is on another level. People are much more aware. There's work to be done, definitely, but the businesses are asking for solutions. The consumers and internal tourists are putting value, as the example of Azores that I just mentioned. So I think it's a really great base for Portugal to make it as one of its competitive advantages as a destination, potentially, versus others.
Oh, this was, thank you, Roberto. This was almost an official invitation to everyone. Come and visit Portugal. So let me jump to the closing question, which is somewhat related to it. Here at BetaE, we work in the space of collaborative innovation, especially in the convergence of large companies, public services, and startups for pilot development to make tangible solutions to our daily or future challenges. So what message would you both like to send to startups and to the innovation ecosystem in general regarding their role for the future of the tourism industry, globally speaking, not only in Portugal? Let me start by Leonor intake.
Okay, difficulties make us stronger. We will come out of this pandemic stronger and more prepared, more sustainable and more creative. Tourism will benefit from these options. Tourism is already being innovated. And small business, startups and pilot projects today have a hug opportunity to help to change. Technology will be the tool of the future and will play a major role in the return of tourism. We need to have hope and be creative. That's my message. We need to learn. We need to learn lessons from the past and with the difficulties we are going through, but always with hope. Always waiting to do better for us and for the next generation. The planet is not ours. The planet needs us and needs our ability, change to do better, be more sustainable and promote a tourism that helps the planet now and in the future is the way. That's what I have to say about this.
Thank you, Leonor. And I loved your comment that, at least for me, if you permit me to say that, I also agree, we tend to be sometimes so future-oriented, like, again, an ethereal thing. But just like you said, we already had lessons from the past. And usually, generally speaking, almost everything you should learn, we can get this from the past and from history.
Yes.
So permit me to say, I totally agree with you. History can learn us a lot to think and act about the future. But Roberto, please, your intake.
Oh, very quickly, I would say, you know, believe that this is the future. I think, you know, there's the evidences, but, you know, just take it as the opportunity to make it something really bright. And this is the space. This is the space, the sustainability. Cooperation is a key word. We are learning, and this has forced us to think together, to share, to not trying to, you know, to keep up information and knowledge in our hands. This works better when we transfer what we know and pass on. And if we all do this, we will elevate the overall knowledge. So cooperation, so give yourself for cooperation. Don't be afraid of sharing your knowledge. And I think it's also important to be fierce and not to give up. There's many no's that you're gonna hear, and we normally hear, but there's no written story yet. So this is actually a work in progress. So it's an everyday learning for everyone when it comes to this aspect of sustainability. So if someone tells us that it's not possible, can't be done, etc., just challenge that, because you can be doing something really good for all of us.
Amazing, Roberto. Thank you again. Thank you, Roberto and Leonor, for your time, for sharing your knowledge and expertise. Let me share with you again the invitation to attend for free next September the 30th, Lisbon Tourism Summit. You can register for free. Maybe you can we can gather there virtually next week. And this was BetaCast. Thank you for being here, for watching us. You can follow, you can recommend, you can give us feedback. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad.
Okay.
That's why we are here, because innovation is about collaboration. Just as Roberto said. Again, Leonor and Roberto, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Bye-bye.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye.